Yes, folks, white nationalism is everywhere. Or at least that's what the left want us to believe. We know it's not true, but anyway. So today I'll set this off with some propaganda from TVNZ here in New Zealand, and then I'll go over to Tucker Carlson in America.
Welcome back. Auckland University has hit back at claims it's allowing a culture of white supremacy to breed on its campus. Instead, it says increased sensitivity following the Christchurch terrorist attack is to blame.
Multiple students, however, have told One News they're suspending their study due to an increase in white nationalist activity. Kate King reports.
Too afraid to study and terrified of speaking out. These PhD students from Auckland University don't want to be identified.
I feel constantly on edge, and I go onto campus wondering what is going to happen today. We're starting to do buddy systems where we have to walk home when we leave campus together late at night.
That's due to what they say is escalating white nationalist activity at the university, including graffiti and intimidating behaviour by people with white supremacist views.
I remember them saying to me they're only pro-abortion for women of colour because they think this is a race war between white people and all the others. And I think that was really what shook me up.
These posters, put up as recently as yesterday, advertise for the Dominion movement, a group which promotes the revitalisation of white New Zealanders, but which said it had disbanded in the wake of the Christchurch attacks.
Yeah, so folks, I don't know anything about these people, so I went in search of some information, and yes, their website has closed down, but I found something on an archive website which is too big to put on screen here, so I'll just read it out to you. Now this is in relation to their website closure. The Dominion movement categorically and without reservation condemns the events in Christchurch. Our movement nor any of its members have ever had any communication or association with the perpetrator. From day one, our movement has been committed to non-violent solutions to the problems in our nation. Our approach has always been to improve ourselves and build a community based upon positive, healthy attitudes and lifestyles. Terrorism is absolutely antithetical to our worldview and cause. In light of the atmosphere which is emerging in the wake of these events, it will be impossible for the Dominion movement to continue our work. We will be ceasing all operations immediately. This site will stay online for a few days before shutting down permanently. Now from that, folks, they seem like quite rational people. They don't seem like violent people at all. They seem quite innocuous. So what's this all about?
Do you know of students who aren't coming to university out of fear?
Yes, we are.
In a strongly worded statement, Auckland University's Vice-Chancellor says the claims of widespread white supremacy are utter nonsense.
Yeah, so the university itself says it's utter nonsense. So folks, when the New Zealand's leading left-wing indoctrination centre says it's utter nonsense, it is utter nonsense. This is a non-story, people. This is just plain propaganda. So why are they doing it? Well, they're pushing exactly the same narrative as Jacinda Ardern is doing. They're trying to shut down speech. Yeah, so I'll go over to Tucker Carlson now, because he seems to have some answers as to why the left are using the term white nationalism.
Well, the press and the Democratic Party have a new label for anybody they disagree with: white nationalist. What does that mean exactly, and what's the agenda behind saying it? And most important, what's the effect on the country when they repeat that again and again and again? Does it make us a better place, or does it make us hate each other?
Well, the answer to that is obvious, isn't it? It makes us hate each other. But the left don't care about that. They're only interested in power. Anyway, I'll just fast forward a little bit.
The word racist has long been the most damning slur in American life, and for good reason. It's hard to think of anything crueler or more unfair than discriminating against someone because of the color of his skin. You don't control the color of your skin. Nobody likes racists. Nobody wants to be called a racist. The left knows that, so they use the word as a cudgel to beat their political opponents into submission and have their way. They've done this so often and for so many years that over time the word racist has lost a lot of its power. It's dulled from overuse. The left needs a new attack line, a new way to make you shut up.
Yeah, and that is white nationalism.
Up and obey. Now they've found one. Watch former Georgia politician Stacey Abrams deploy it against White House advisor Stephen Miller.
What about the man who's also really leading this for the White House, Stephen Miller? He is spearheading the immigration agenda, and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar actually referred to him as a white nationalist. Do you agree with her?
I believe that what we have seen from Stephen Miller is vestiges of white nationalism.
White nationalism. Let's be literal for a minute. What is that exactly? Abrams didn't say, she didn't have to say. The phrase hits you in the gut, not the head. It evokes images from a nightmare. Detention camps, deportation trains, mass killing. It's terrifying. You'd rather be called a cannibal than a white nationalist. And of course, that is exactly the point. That's why they say it.
We have a white nationalist president who's...
Yeah, so Trump is a white nationalist. Even though he's delivered the best employment figures for black Americans than any other president. And he's doing very, very well in the polls with African Americans.
a threat to American democracy.
It's the language of white nationalist, European splinter, hard right, crazy town parties. And we haven't heard it in our politics in a long time.
It's going to be Stephen Miller. And his sort of white nationalist tendencies are really obvious. You can't even dress that up.
I don't think it's a stretch for a lot of Americans out there to wonder whether or not the president is secretly considering himself a white nationalist.
Again, you'll notice that none of these dumb people pause even for a second to explain to you what a white nationalist is. You probably still don't know, and honestly, neither do we. And that's because there are so very few of them in this country. There are probably about as many legitimate white nationalists in America as there are Russian spies. You could live your entire life here without running into a white nationalist. No matter what they tell you, this is a remarkably kind and decent country. What's telling is that according to the left, only certain people qualify for the title white nationalist. You just heard Stephen Miller denounced as one for his support of the temporary family separation at the U.S. border. But it turns out the Obama administration did essentially the very same thing to immigrant families, split them up. Are they white nationalists too? Well, watch CNN's Samantha Vinograd explain.
And when President Obama separated children from their families' wealth, or from adults' wealth, it was for their protection. Right. It was if there was a risk of trafficking or other kind of harm that might have been incurred.
So just to recap, those of you keeping track at home, when Obama did it, it was for their protection, Wolf. When Trump does it, it's white nationalism. How does this work exactly? Well, Candace Owens unraveled the mystery yesterday in testimony before Congress. Watch.
There isn't a single adult today that in good conscience would make the argument that America is a more racist or a more white nationalist society than it was when my grandfather was growing up. And yet we're hearing these terms sent around today because what they want to say is that brown people need to be scared, which seems to be the narrative that we hear every 4 years right ahead of a presidential election.
Yes, and there's your answer, folks. They want to scare black people into voting left. But not only that, folks, it's all about branding. The left are very, very good at branding. They're trying to make socialists the good people and conservatives evil white nationalists. They want to group us in with the extremists, and they want to silence all of us.